Well, hello there. It's Dr. Brian McKay, not just a chiropractor, Stanford, Darien, Norwalk, New Canaan. And again, as always, I'm apologizing for my horrendous title of my podcast. What I want to talk to you today about is inflammation. Okay? Inflammation. We hear about it all the time, and I think we don't understand it. So I really want to do a deep dive on explaining inflammation. Acute inflammation is pretty easy to understand. It's a short-term thing. But I have an analogy for you. The short-term inflammation is a good thing. You know, it's like there's good cholesterol, bad cholesterol. Yet when you have chronic inflammation, you have a very serious condition going on because it attacks the brain and cause all kinds of issues with your frontal lobe. Typical things would say like the frontal lobe is right above your eyes, where your forehead is. And there you would have focus, attention, concentration, executive planning, goal setting, and all this stuff takes place there. But over a long period of time, chronic inflammation can erode your ability to concentrate, to do executive goal setting or set goals. So it's really something that we have to think about. Now, inflammation is somewhat affected by your genetics. So, it may pay to do a genetic study, and this is not the typical study you're going to get by going to Quest Diagnostics or local lab to run a blood test. So it's one of those things just to be careful. But there's stuff you need to know is chronic inflammation can lead to a bunch of different things. First of all, cancer, metabolic disorders, diabetic complications, neurological disorders. I mean, you got your Parkinson's, your Alzheimer's, all the terrible things. You can have bone, muscular, and skeletal diseases, cardiovascular diseases. And all of these things come about because of chronic inflammation. Okay? Chronic inflammation, again, not good. So what happens is chronic inflammation comes about primarily because of standard American diet. Let's face it, our diet is under attack right now with Kennedy being the new HSS, which I think is a good idea, but you may not agree with me. But the idea here is this: the standard American diet is making us one of the sickest countries in the world. So here we are. We spend the most amount of money on healthcare, yet we're one of the most unhealthy nations there is as a result of it. And, it's quite a conundrum, I would say, to say the least. But so what happens is you can get some idea if you have chronic inflammation. And you can do that in a simple, the very simple, test called C-reactive protein. And if you have a high level of C-reactive protein, that's one of the things you're going to look for on a basic blood work. Then you'll know if you're having inflammation. Because inflammation, you can have heart disease and not know you have and not be aware of it until you have a heart attack. So again, chronic inflammation causes a lot of bad things going on. ESR is a erythrocyte sedimentation rate. This is another good indicator because it indicates tissue destruction. So these are things you can see, if you're having, issues. Now, another thing too is if your omega-3/6 ratios are off, that's another way to see, because again, if you have enough omega-3, it's more protective. It's more neuroprotective, so it's even better for the brain and stuff. So those are the lab tests you can order, but there are much more higher level where you can go to do a deep dive. So here's the thing that you got to look out for with pro-inflammatory foods: sugar, most of the vegetables, the seed oils. So that's not, olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil. Those would be excluded. Those would be a good, an anti-inflammatory food. But you have, take a look. What do we have most of in our diets? Bad fats, processed meats, trans fatty acids, fast foods, conventional meats, sugar, vegetable oils, fried foods, wheat, flour, dairy. So those are things you need to stay away from, but that's makes up 80% of the standard American diet. So it's something to be aware of. The more anti-inflammatory foods would be blueberries, ginger, turmeric is another good one, dark chocolate, good fats, olive oil, grass-fed butter, free-range eggs, grass-fed beef, wild-caught fatty fish, and broccoli. Of course, broccoli is good for everything. May not always taste that good, but it is good for everything. Now, going to another side is there's a number of anti-inflammatory supplements. And this is something to be good to be aware of, because turmeric, everybody's talking about turmeric these days. It's great. It's a great supplement. No wonder it's getting all the attention it deserves. That's a huge one. Omega-3s are wonderful. Again, neuroprotective. This is basically your fish oil. Boswellia is an herbal extract. Boswellia, Boswellia. Resveratrol is made from grapeseed extract, and that's also very neuroprotective and helps with the inflammation. Curacin, bromelain, green tea extract. Believe it or not, green tea is something that you can really eat, pretty easy to get, and it has, again, beneficial for, again, anti-inflammatory. And another one is, you may not be aware of, ALA, or alpha lipoic acid. So, chronic illness, again, is like chronic inflammation is like a blowtorch, and it destroys everything. So it's going to not just destroy your that frontal lobe, but it's going to affect, all these other areas like bone, muscle, skeletal tissue, neurological, diabetic complications, metabolic disorders, thyroid, cancer. So basically, chronic inflammation is pretty damn bad, whereas acute inflammation is very good. So it's like they both serve a purpose, but chronic inflammation is something that really will impact the quality of your life going forward. So I hope I didn't, get into too lengthy a thing. There's acute inflammation, which is good, chronic inflammation, which is bad. Chronic inflammation can cause all kinds of cardiovascular disease, bone, muscle, skeletal diseases, neurological disorders, diabetic complications, metabolic disorders, like thyroid, heart, there's so many things that, cancer, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, it just makes it a lot more difficult for your brain to operate. And this thing's not just food, okay? What the body needs in general is oxygen stimulation, and in a buttload of it, okay? You do need glucose, but too much sugar is obviously as a pro-inflammatory, where it creates too much inflation. So you really have to have a good balance with the amount of tissues need oxygen and glucose stimulation, and that'll help decrease the amount of inflammation you have in your body. So I don't think I'm telling you anything you haven't heard before, but just so you understand, inflammation does not hurt. You may not feel the pain, but it can kill you. So sorry for the bad news on that front. I'm Dr. Brian McKay. Yes, I'm just a chiropractor, but I have some pretty good ideas and some good information to share. If you have any questions, you can reach out. I am 203-656-3636, 203-656-3636.